Hello world, we're back.
What's up?
What up?
Yo, we're here with Braden, Peter, Isaac, and today, Mr. Steves.
Hello. Great to have you.
Okay, we're going to be learning about Mr. Steves' testimony. So what do you want to say about yourself first?
I don't know. What do you want me to say about myself? What do you want to know?
What do you do for a living?
So now I'm currently working with my wife, self-employed. We run the Steve's Ranch Soap Company. That's just kind of like a little side gig that we did to help pay for a Christian school. And we are in the payment industry. That is our main job. Prior to that, I was in law enforcement for roughly 27 years. And before that, I was a punk kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could ask you, what made you step out of the law enforcement?
Well, that's a whole nother testimony.
Whoa.
But basically, I was in church and we were listening to a class, and the class was basically saying, "Are you doing what God wants you to do, or are you doing what you wanted to do?" And I was like, "Well, my plan is to do 30 years for the police department and retire, and then go work for the county and put in 5 more years and retire, and I'll have 2 full retirements from both organizations and be set."
Yeah.
And then the Holy Spirit said, "But is that what I want you to do?" And I was like, "What?"
Oh,
And I was like, "What is it you want me to do?" And he goes, "Do you remember this?" And bam, it was like a movie playing back in my mind. And I was probably her age, maybe pretty close to that. And it was about, we were doing an assignment for school, and you were supposed to do career day and talk about what you want to be And I was like, I had no clue what I wanted to be. So I don't know what I want to be. So I asked. At this time, my mother and took us. We went to church maybe a couple times that I remember. I knew who Jesus was, but I didn't really know a lot about Jesus, and I wasn't real. But when you're young and you have that faith, it just works, right? And it did for me. And I saw, as a kid, I was like, I went to bed and I said, "God, I don't know what I'm going to be. What am I supposed to be when I grow up?" And I remember he said, "You're going to be your own boss." And then I had a vision of me being like a rancher, running a ranch or something. And I was like, wow, so I'm going to be my own boss. But when you're that age, you don't know what your own boss is.
Yeah.
So the next day I woke up and I saw a policeman. And I was like, that guy's his own boss. Nobody's telling him what to do. He's in his car, he drives around, makes his own decisions. Well, I was wrong. But that's how I ended up becoming a police officer, was because of that. But then the Lord just told me, he says, it's time for you to leave that. It's time for you to step away and go into business with your wife. Because she asked me 5 years prior to retire and go do this. And I was like, no, it's not my plan. And so I stepped out in faith, and the Lord took care of everything. I mean, we went from, she wasn't really working anymore, and her income was, because she hadn't worked for 5 years, and we basically were living off of my income and what she had left of hers. But when I left, I basically dropped half of my income, and then I lost insurance for all of us. But within, I don't know, maybe 2 months after leaving that, the Lord had already replaced everything that I lost. It was that fast, and it was the most peaceful decision I've ever made in my life. She was freaking out, but I was not.
We were just getting ready to build this house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's another thing. We were building this house at the time, and we went basically from having 2 incomes to 1 income. Plus, my retirement took a month to kick in, and it was.
and no health insurance and a loan.
Yeah. In my retirement, when you retire from the city government with only 20, I think I had 23 years, you can't really retire. It's not enough money. I mean, it was like $1,700, that's nothing.
Yeah.
And so we knew it was going to be a struggle, but it's the most peaceful decision I ever did. That's one thing. So
You know, my dad moved into Manor like as soon as y'all left.
At my old house?
I don't know if it's the same house, but
Mm-mm. It's further down the street.
Ours is
Okay.
towards the end.
Yeah, ours was towards the end, yeah. But yeah, that was, I tell you what, I couldn't do it without God. Whether I've been loyal to him or not, he's always been loyal to me. And I will say that, you know, and it's taken, and I can get into my testimony about that now if you want to go that direction.
okay,
Yeah.
tell us about it.
Let's go.
I want to hear it.
So, as like I was saying, I was a police officer. It was in, I'm not good with dates and times, but it was in 2000, I think, somewhere around 2000. I was working. I think I was a corporal, which is kind of like the shift supervisor if the sergeant's not there. And it was a night shift. And it was probably about maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. It was a early morning when it's real, you know, when it's so still outside, you can hear everything, but it was just like real quiet and
Yeah.
no wind blowing, so quiet at night. They ended up stopping a guy that I had arrested for no insurance and no driver's license, and I took him in to the city jail and I was booking him in, and then I heard a radio call about shots, a man shot across the street from the police department. They gave an apartment number, and I was like, I think that's my brother's apartment number. So I was like, what's going on? So I handcuffed my guy that I arrested to the bench, because we had a bar where you could lock people up so they didn't get crazy. Because it was straight across the street from the police department, I was real close. So I said, well, let me get in there and go over there in case there's something that I need to go help on. Plus, I want to know what's going on at my brother's house. So I get over there, and by this time, all the officers were already there. And I walk up, and there's an officer standing at the door, and he sees me. He just looks at me and goes, "You can't go in." I'm like, "What's going on?" He goes, "You just can't go in." I said, "Is it my brother?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Is he dead?" He goes, "Yeah." And so that was pretty rough. Thank gosh they didn't let me go in. And at this point in my life, I was not following Christ. I had grown out of that, and I had a worldly view. You know, I believed that we probably evolved from monkeys, and you name it that the world teaches you. I was completely, you know, I was like, well, the Earth's millions of years old. Noah's Ark's a joke. You know, none of that stuff is real. And that was my worldview at that time. So, anyways, we buried my brother, and about a month later, and by the way, none of this had changed me, you know, believing in God or Jesus or anything at this point. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. But my brother had a Camaro, and he had a jet ski that he had to go take back to the bank. And none of us could pay for them, so we were going to go take them back and turn them in. But my brother Michael, and my brother Frank decided we were going to go take that jet ski to Surfside and ride it in the waves, because it's a wave runner. And, you know, we're going to go just spend the day on my brother's thing and just try to have whatever sense of, you know, fun we could with that thing, because we were all like, yeah, he would want us to go do that. So we put it on my truck, and then I was driving, my little brother was in the middle, and my older brother Michael was in the passenger seat. And we were going on 523 heading towards Surfside Beach. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the area, but there's a recycling plant out that way. Excuse me. And as we passed that recycling plant, I was listening to, I had AC/DC, Hell's Bells cranked up, just jamming. And as we passed that recycling plant, I heard a voice inside my head, just as plain as I'm talking to y'all, and it says, "The keys." And it like made the hair stand up on my arms. I was like, what was that? And I looked over at my brother, and he looked at me, and both of us at the same time said, "The keys." And my little brother was sitting here, and he goes, I was just thinking that. I was just thinking that. I was just thinking that. And I was like, what the heck just happened? So I pulled over the truck and I was like, we were sitting there going, what was that? What happened? And everybody's like, I don't know. I said, I heard a voice. And the other two go, I just thought it. I thought it. I'm like, well, I heard a voice and it was not Glenn, who was my brother who committed suicide, by the way. That's what happened in the apartment. And so I was like, that wasn't him. I know my brother's voice. That was not his voice. That was a deep, powerful voice. I don't know what that was. I said, so we're like, we were all kind of just freaking out. So we got out of the car and we walked to the back of the jet ski and the keys were missing out of the ignition of the jet ski. And I'm like, that wasn't him. It's not like it's a ghost. I don't understand. I said, let's just turn around and go back down the road and see if we see the keys. So we got in the truck, turned around, went about 100 yards down the road, right where we heard the voice, and the keys were laying in the road. And so we pulled over and I got the keys and I was like, it was then that I was like, that was supernatural. And I said, I don't know if that was God or I don't know if that was an angel. I don't know. I said, but there's to me, there's only one explanation for it. There's a God and he knows we're hurting and he knows that if we got to that beach without those keys, we were going to be devastated. And he reached out to us and in our pain, because we were all in pain going there. It's like we're going to ride our dead brother's jet ski. Every one of us were in a low spot in our lives because of this. And I know now it was the Holy Spirit reaching out to us, letting us know that, hey, he said what he needed to say. Because of that, I was like, I don't understand everything, God. I don't understand where we all come from. I don't understand anything, but I know one thing's for sure. You're real. There's the only explanation for this is that you're real. Jesus is real. And I said, I don't need to know about the dinosaurs. I don't need to know about this. I said, if it's in the Bible, it's real. It's got to be. It's the only explanation that made any sense to me at that point. And at that point, I was like, I believe. I said, if I need to find out anything, you will reveal it to me in my life as I go through life. And he's revealed every single question that I ever had. I have an answer for, and I can speak to somebody with what I feel like is authority to say, yeah, Noah's Ark's real. It's in the mountains of Red. Turkey found it. They have it marked off. You can go look for it, and you can see the ruins. They found stuff. It's real. I mean, if you can't find that, you got Mount Sinai. Real. And everything that I've ever had questions about, the Lord has answered for me. And I'm not a perfect Christian. And obviously, I was 30 years old when that happened. So I was a grown up. And so it's taken sanctification to get me where I'm at in my life. And, I'm still a work in progress because I didn't have, like you guys are like, wow, it's amazing to see that y'all are walking around with Bibles. I wish that I would have done that when I was her age. And I've told her that, and it seems to be working, but still got some work to do with the other one. But that's how I came to know who the Lord was.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's amazing.
What would you
Really amazing.
What would you say was like the biggest struggle after you were saved, or like after you had that encounter, just through your walk with Christ? Like, what was the biggest struggle?
Oh man, there's been tons of them. Like,
Okay, I have another thing. So about that, what is like you remember you could not? Well, obviously you can't go through it without God. But what was you remember? You could remember that you couldn't go through it without God. Like you tried, if you ever tried your own way. You know what I mean?
oh, so like just in life in general over that question.
When we were building the house.
Yeah, I mean, building the house, if I tried to do this by myself. So every struggle that I go through in life since that point in time, every struggle that I go through, it's because I've left God out of it. And then it's a struggle. And then finally, and it's because you get ingrained to try to do stuff yourself. You know, I mean, it's easier if you practice this at your age. When you get to my age, you've already practiced. But when you start at my age and you try to go through this, you're used to trying to do things yourself, and it's so hard to change those habits. Like, it's like being raised by a dad who beats you. Well, you know you don't want to beat your children, but that's the way you were raised, so you end up whipping your kids, or not that that's what we do, but I'm just saying, you get ingrained to do, I need to whoop Ariana, probably, she needs to be whooped a little bit more, but you get ingrained by the way you were raised. So for instance, my father was not romantic with my mother. I never saw romance, I never had an example of romance. I struggle with it. It makes it very difficult for me because Jessica wants to be romanced. I don't know how to do it. It's like, everybody else, it's just so easy. I'm like, it's not for me, because I was raised this way, and I act just like my dad, and it's like, I love my dad, but I wish he would have taught me better. I wish he would have said, boy, you need to do this for that girl. You need to do this. You need to do and beat it into me at a younger age so that I would have an example, but I didn't have that example. So stuff like that. Back to your question. I kind of went off topic there, off topic, but
You could tell him the story about when you were getting ready to retire, about going back and forth.
oh, yeah, that was after I had that encounter in church, the human resources lady said, if you wait around for a couple of months, you'll get more money, because in the city of Hamilton you have a longevity. So if you stay the full year, you get longevity pay, which for me would have been around $1,700. So if I would have waited 2 months to retire, I would have got $1,700. So I was like, it makes sense to stay around 2 more months. And oh my word, when I made that decision, everything went from peace to it just fell apart. The Lord convicted me. He's like, do you not trust me? It's $1,700. Do you not trust me? And I'm like, yes, I trust you. So I told her, I said, this is what's going on, and I feel bad that I'm going to stay for 2 more months. And she's like, it's just $1,700. It's not going to kill us. I mean, we're already going to be hurting. So what's a little bit more?
Well, doing the thing that isn't logical, right? Because it's logical to just wait it out for 2 more months.
Yeah. So, and I did that twice. There was 2 different things that came up. The first one I struggled with. When the second one came up, I was like, no.
Oh yeah,
Don't
if you
care.
stay 3 months, then you have an
Yeah.
overall increase in pay every single
Because
month
of my
because of his
birthday.
age.
Because I retired in September, my birthday's in December, so that instead of staying 2 months, which I could have got 17 if I stayed 3 months, my retirement would have been better because I would have been a year older and it would have recognized me being a year older. But I was like,
Not even considering it.
I didn't even consider it after I was convicted.
Was there a specific sin cycle that you couldn't get over for a while?
You mean, is there something that, be more specific?
How do I explain that?
Stronghold.
Yeah.
Oh, I still have strongholds today. I mean, strongholds are the human condition.
Uh-huh.
You know, especially when you've been doing them for forever, like eating or drinking alcohol, or which I don't do that anymore. But those are kind of strongholds that you fight and you give up. Like being romantic. I mean, is it a sin not to be romantic? Well, not necessarily, but is it a sin when you're not treating your wife like the Lord treats the church? Absolutely. And to me, I struggle with that. That is like a big one for me. And it's like, I was middle child, also had middle child syndrome. And I didn't believe that, but I believe it now because I'm selfish. And it's very difficult for me to get rid of that selfishness. And then when I sense it and I see it, it's like I can do it. But I have to in the moment of being that way, I have to catch myself, or someone else has to point it out to me, and then it's like, you're sure right. I mean, and that's a stronghold that I've lived with for my whole life, and I still to this day, you know, if we had a steak here, and that's the last steak, and you only ate a little piece, I'm gonna be like, I'm still hungry, you know, and instead of just saying, hey, why don't you eat that steak? I've gotten better about it, but okay, chocolate chip cookie. That's more realistic.
I have a stronghold that the Lord interrupted, and it was, well, I have a lot of former drug abuse and alcohol abuse. I would say that I quit the drugs and all of those things on my own because I wasn't really reaching out to Him for support in that area. But the alcohol was the last thing that I struggled with that He took my cravings. I mean, there was some human participation in the background that I wasn't aware of that took place that I've just learned about recently. But I struggled with it was a cycle. You know, there's the drinking during the day, and then drink so much because you want to get rid of it. So then the next day you don't have any, so that you can't drink because you don't have any. But then you're like, well, I'm just gonna go get some more. So then you drink all of it to get rid of it. That was the cycle I was stuck in. And I wouldn't sleep good at night. I remember I would just pray and be like, I don't want this. Take this from me. And it aligned with what He wanted for my life. And when I finally got to that point of desperation and I just reached out to Him, He took it. And it was kind of ugly, but in the moment that He took it from me, I knew that it was Him because like the cravings were gone. Like I had no desire to want it. I don't know if you've ever been addicted to anything like food or sugar or whatever, or energy drinks, but you have that craving. But He literally He took it. And I mean, I don't know. I don't have any desire to have alcohol anymore. So, and that's 100% God. I mean, I could go into the whole story of how it all happened, but you know, ultimately it was just He reached out and took it. And I knew it was Him too because I had this. Oh, it was so funny. I had this shirt on. It was our Disneyland shirts. Did y'all get Disneyland shirts made for your family?
No.
Okay, well that was a thing where you would get shirts made for everybody, and like mine had Mom on the back, and he had Dad, and you know, little sister, big sister, whatever. But I hadn't worn this shirt for like 3 or 4 years, and I was going over to my mom's house to bake a cake for her birthday, and I was like, I'm just gonna wear a ratty old shirt. Well, it was best day ever because you know you're at Disneyland, it's the best day ever, right? So I'm like, I don't know why I'm gonna wear this shirt, but I'm gonna wear this shirt. So I put the shirt on and I go on over to my mom's house, and I was a wine drinker, so I was expecting to have some wine while I'm making this cake because I really didn't want to make this cake, but I was making it for her birthday. So I go over there and I'm like, well, where's all the wine? I walk in, and usually she has this wine rack with wine just stacked, and I'm expecting to see wine. Well, later I found out he had called her and asked her to remove it on my way over there, but it was all gone when I got there. And I'm like, Lord, are you trying to tell me something? And so, you know, in my mind, I'm hearing, yeah, you're not supposed to drink. And I was pretty upset about that because I wanted to relax and enjoy my evening and make this cake. And well, Verity was over there and she had started to choke on something. And later we found out it was a penny, but it freaked me out. And had I been drinking, I probably wouldn't have been able to make decisions for her. And during that time, it was COVID. So you couldn't have multiple people in the emergency room or in the ambulance because everyone was like one person to the patient. So I'm in my mind, she's choking, and I'm like, thank God I didn't drink because I wouldn't be able to make good decisions right now to handle this situation. Well, my dad was like, I think it's a lithium battery that she swallowed, and he's like, she's gonna die, it's gonna burn a hole through her intestine, and I'm sitting there freaking out. So we get images of her stomach, and we're in Sweeney, and they're like, our X-ray techs aren't that good to determine if it's a penny or what it is. So they transferred us to Texas Children's. Well, in the ambulance on the way with her, I go to take a selfie of me and her in the ambulance, which is kind of weird. But I had noticed in the camera, my shirt said "Best Day Ever," and I'm sitting there going, "It's like the best day ever." And the Lord was like, "It's the best day ever," because I literally, you're not going to have any cravings for alcohol anymore. And I'm like, oh wow, you literally just took all of my cravings. Like, that's amazing. This is the best day ever. And I had complete peace about her situation. Like I was freaking out previous to seeing that selfie picture and just being reminded that this was the best day ever. We go to Texas Children's, they do an x-ray. They didn't even do an x-ray because the doctor was like, if it was a lithium battery that she swallowed, she would have had to have swallowed a magnet along with it, because that's what would pull the acid out of the battery to leach into the intestines and cause the perforations. But they were like, she's totally cool. And I haven't had a sip of alcohol since. It's just been, nor do I care to have any alcohol.
Wait, how'd you find out it was a penny?
So the people in Sweeney said that it was a penny, but I said, can you 100% certain rule out that it's not a battery? Because it did have like, the image showed like a little bit of a, how those batteries, they're flat and then they've got like the little dent on the side. It looked a little dented, so they were like, it looks like it could be a battery, but we can't tell. So you would need to go to a specialist.
They didn't want to be responsible.
No, but had they also known the information that Children's knew about they would have had to have had a magnet with it. That would have been peaceful. But I wouldn't have had that moment in the ambulance with her. It was a God intervention thing for sure. So, yeah, so it was good.
Restored?
By the way, that's Jessica.
Hi.
Hi.
She didn't want to be in camera. In the camera.
I just got out of the shower.
And this is Missy, who's been screaming the whole time that you're here.
Can I see?
Is that your favorite cat?
That's mine.
I have a couple of favorites, but she's a favorite because she's such a
softie.
mean-spirited little critter, but she's so sweet too.
Such a softie.
Are we done?
Are we done?
You done? You have any more questions?
Do you want to share anything else that you feel is important?
Jesus is real.
Amen.
I mean,
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
100%. And one thing that I've learned is that I can't save anybody, and I've also learned that all I can do is plant a seed.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I get to water the seed. Doesn't mean that I get to watch the seed grow. And you can't plant a seed if you don't tell somebody about Jesus. So when you have a chance to talk to somebody about Jesus, especially if you're in an uncomfortable situation and you hear the nudge of God to speak, then you should do it, because you may be the person that is going to harvest the crop. You may be the person that plants the seed that's going to be watered a year later. You just don't know. And if you don't do your part, that means it's delayed for somebody else to follow up that's doing what God's work is. So that's my one thing that I've learned that I would say is important, because I've kept quiet just to avoid confrontation before, and later on regretted it, and I wonder why I regretted it. And I should have stood more should have spoke up instead of worrying about whether or not I was going to offend somebody. Because if you love somebody, which is what we're supposed to do, then you probably might offend them. And sometimes love is not always what people think it is. Love sometimes can be rough, and it can be brutal, and it can be hurtful. But if it's what God puts it on your heart, then you should probably do it. Thank you. I was expecting tears from you guys, but I'm a little disappointed.
You want me to cut?
Pause the video real quick.
Pause.
Pause the video.
Alright, okay.
Oh, well, that's gonna end it.
Wait, no, not literally.
Oh,
Just-
I'm not-
okay, we're out.
We're
Bye.
out, guys.